So, we are discussing about Java I/O and files, and one important facility is that Java language supports. It is basically random access file. In the last video lectures, we have discussed about sequential access of files. So, random access files is another unique addition in this Java.io package. So, in this lecture we will cover the basic concept of random access file and how some data can be read from a random access file and how some data also can be stored into a random access file. Then simultaneous read and write operation, that is why the random access file is meant for actually we can do it, and then how the data can be appended, and finally we will discuss about how an object can be stored into a random access file and then the same object can be read from a random access file. So, this is basically the topic that we want to discuss. So, what exactly a random access file is? So, as the name implies, random access file allows you to write anywhere in the file and read from anywhere in the file. So, this is the concept, it is there. This is in contrast to the sequential access file, where it allow you to read sequentially one after another. So, at the moment where you finish your writing, next time if you want to write, then it will be at the next point actually. So, it is sequentially the file will go. So, reading also starting from the 0 position, it will read one by one either as a byte or character is a byte. So, it is a sequential access, and the random access, as you said, that it can be access either reading or writing in a random access file. Now, in Java.io package there are two interfaces, data input and data output. Random access file basically implements these two interfaces. So, whatever the methods are there, it is basically available into the random access file there. So, this basically interface implements are there. Now, so like other files, random access file also different in the concept that other files that we have studied can be opened either in input mode or output mode. So, either it is it will work as an input stream or it will work as a output stream, which we have already discussed and studied and learned also. So, one file if you open as an input stream, you will not be able to write into the same file. Then you have to close the input stream, then open it again as an output stream and then write it there. So, this is the concept. This is in contrast, in case of random access file, you will be able to open a file both in read and write mode actually. So, both read and write operation can be carried out simultaneously, and even if the end of file occurs, then in case of random access file it will just throw an IO exception, as is the exception it is there. It is basically now another concept that I want to convey here is that random access file, it is basically a byte stream, right, is array of bytes. So, whole the file will be considered as an array of bytes actually. So, a random access file can be created in that sense in an array of bytes as an object, or is a collection, right, is a bytes, array of bytes like. Okay. So, whole the contents can be stored as an array of bytes, that is why it allow you to pinpoint in a particular position. So, byte by byte accessing is possible there. Now, so in order to create the object of this kind of class, that is the random access file, in Java.io random access file class is defined. This class has two constructors to create the object of this type. The two constructors are listed here in this table. The constructor, first constructor is called the name of the file to be passed, because it is always a file object, and then second is the mode. The mode can be read or write both. So, that is why the mode you can specify. So, this is the mode can be specified as a string, and then second constructor basically give the name of the file as a right. Here you are giving the file as an object, but here you give the name of the file, automatically file object will be created. If the file does not exist, it will create newly, and then mode can be specified. So, these are the two constructor. One, you can pass file as an object as a first argument, second is mode. Second argument is mode always in the two constructor. So, a file, random access file can be created if originally a file is available, initially a file is available, then this mode, and if is not available, or even if it is available, this constructor can be used. So, there are two constructor you can use to create the file object of type random access file, and this is important to note it actually, because we will follow these two constructor while we create the random access file. Now, so there are different methods which you can consider to operate with the random access file. The close is a trivial method, is always there. So, is get channel. So, there are different channel that can be used to open a random access file. So, in order to know that which channel it is there. Now, these are the two basically read, you can read as an integer, read as an UTF, but it is ultimately written as a byte actually, but you can use this as a read int as a primitive form. This is basically integer form and this is the text. You can write in the form of a double also, seek long position if you want to skip certain, or you can, if you want to position your reading or writing pointer into a particular position in the file, then the seek method can be called, giving the position. The position can be 0 to any file, the length of the file, that is the position actually, and if you specify the seek beyond this end of file or something, then it will return an IO exception. So, these are the different methods are there, few more methods also in this file access is there, which we have listed here, and here are the write float, write double, like it is a write, also you can write integer as a byte, read, this is basically reading as a byte into the file. Length is the method by which you can calculate the length of the random access file, and this also we have discussed about it. So, these are the different methods available or defined in the class. This class is random access file, which you can consider for your file management actually. Now, okay, so what is the utility of this random access file? I have mentioned that it basically useful for both reading and writing, just like input stream and output stream classes that we have discussed about, but unlike these input stream and output stream classes, it basically allow you to read or write in a random fashion, and it file pointer can moves actually as a random. File pointer means from which pointer you want to either read or to write, and it basically can be opened both read and write mode, we have already mentioned it. Now, let us have certain utility of this program as a, I mean using the reading from a random access file. First we will discuss, then we will discuss about how writing from a random access file, and then both reading and writing from a random access file. So, this will make a sense about using the random access file then. So, first let us consider how we can read some data which is already stored in a random access file. So, regarding read, these are the method that you can consider. Now, here is the program. This program, let us look at this program little bit carefully, what we are doing. Now, we have to import this class, otherwise all these method that we are referring can lead to an error. So, this import is important, import as a java.io random access file. This is a demo of random access read file demo. So, let this name of the file, this is, I give the name of the file is like this, that nptel.txt, this is the name of the file that we want to read from it. Then what we are doing is that this is the main method. In the main method, okay, this is the main method. In this main method, we just we call this method, which is the user defined method. I will just define this method. So, read from file, the name of the file, and it basically read from 0 to 18. This is basically position and basically the size that we want to read it actually. So, this is the main method actually there. Now, let us have the discussion about defining this read from file whose name is there and read from starting point is 0. So, now, this method is defined here. This method return as a byte as we have mentioned here. So, read from file we define string is the file path, this is the name of the path, name of the file rather, integer position, and this is the size. Now, let us see how we define this program here. So, we first create the object of type random access file, that is the constructor we used. This is basically the name of the file object, and then we open it in a read mode only. So, this is the mode. So, this is the file objects and this is the mode that we pass it. So, we create an object random access file, then file seek position, that means we start from 0 position, whatever we pass it here 0. So, now 0 position. Okay. So, start from 0. Then here we can see we define a temporary bytes and the size of the byte is 18 because we want to read 18 bytes. So, let us declare an array of bytes here. Now, read and these bytes. So, hold the content of the file, random access file will read for this file object here, this is the file object will read and it will store into the bytes. So, this is the one read method which is defined for this random access file, which basically read whole bytes starting from 0 to 18 like. Okay. And so, this basically completes the reading of the file. Then this file again you can open, later on we will see how we can open this file and then content can be displayed. So, this basically explain you how a file can be read from a particular position to some position, like here we read 0 to 18, instead of 0 to 18 we can read from any position to any position whatever it is there, but this limit you have to check it carefully so that it should within the range and should not go the last particular session beyond the end of file. If it is go to the end of file, then it is an exception. So, this program you can check later on, you can run it, you can practice, and then you can see how it can read a random access file in a reading mode. Now, let us continue another program which basically open the file that we have just created, and then we can open it and then read the data. We can open it and you can write the data into that. So, this is about reading the file, and let us see how the writing can be done. So, this is another example that we are going to discuss about writing into a random access file. It is basically just opposite to the previous one. Earlier it was reading and writing. First we could write, then we can read. Okay, anyway, whatever it is there. So, these are the different methods we have listed. We have already mentioned this method once. So, write as a byte, as a length, and these are the different methods, write double, write float, write in, all these methods you can use to write the data into the random access file. Now, let us come to the discussion about how we can do ultimately in a program, and this is a simple program that we can consider for you. So, this okay, because we are using the random access file, this file should be imported into here. So, here random access file write demo we can say, and this is the file that we want to store some data into it. Let the name of the file is myfile.txt. So, this is the name of the file where you want to write data, and the data that we are. So, this is the main method. In this main method we just declare one method called write to file. Now, it requires the name of the file and the message that which we want to store and in which position we want to store, because it is a random access file. So, we have our absolute liberty to write in any position here. So, this basically allow you to write into some positions that is there. Now, 41 is the position. If suppose initially file is empty, it will automatically create the bytes for that, and then it will create, and so that we can write this in a 41 position. Now, before 41, 0 to 40, there may not be any data into there. It can be garbage data or whatever it is there. Otherwise, you can write some data there also, assuming that it is initially some data there up to 0 to 40 and we want to write something after 41 for an example. Here also you can write 0 also, so that starting from the beginning we can write. If the data contents there, it will overwrite also. So, this basically is the main method. Now, we have to define this write to file method. We are defining write to file method here. So, this is the name of the file, this is the message that we want to write, and this is basically where we want to write in the random access file. So, now file object file is created giving the file path, and we want to create is read write mode. So, it is basically this file can be used both for reading and writing purpose as you have opened it. Otherwise, you could write it only write mode also in this case. Now, here you can see we position the file pointer into the position. So, here 41 like, and then we write using this method. Now, here the data that is there. So, data is basically passed as an argument. This is basically input data that is there. We need to convert into the byte. So, get byte method for the string that can allow you to convert this into byte. So, this basically convert in an array of bytes, which basically write method will be called for, and then it will write that bytes into the file, and then finally file will be closed. So, the file is ready. You can just simply open the file using any text editor and then see the content of the file will be stored there automatically, or you can open using read file concept that we have discussed earlier, read character by character and paint it on the console. So, you can do that things also. So, this is left as an exercise for your own practice. So, now we have understood about how a random access file can be opened and data can be stored in it, and then how a random access file can be opened to read data from it. So, these two programs are useful program which basically gives you an idea about how this can be done. Now, let us discuss about how read write operations, because random access file is one way advantageous in that sense, because it allow to open both in reading and writing together. So, we will consider another example. I am giving a few example so that you can understand these things better. So, this example is basically we will read some data into a random access file, and subsequently the same file will we will write some data into a random access file first, and then we read the same file to retrieve the data actually. This is the program that we are going to write. Now, here this is the import java.io.star includes that random access file is imported here, and we create the file object of type random access file. Initially it is null. Then here within try block we are just file, this is the random access file constructor is created, this is the name of the file and this is the mode that we want to create. So, the name of the file is ran dot, assuming the ran dot is available in the current working directory, and opening the file in read write mode. Then here few statement you can follow. Write char is basically write a character into the file, name of the file ran dot, write int and then write double. After writing it, just position the file pointer to 0. Then system.out.println find read char. Now, you see go to the 0, here till time it is basically writing mode. Then here coming here we are reading mode. So, the same file can be read write in the same way. So, file read char. So, it basically read character, it will print on the screen. Then if you continue the program, it will basically continue and you will see the program here. Then file read int. So, it basically read the integer, then we read double from the file. So, basically there, and then file seek2 we position the file into the second position there, in the second bytes there. So, 0 is in the read char, 1 is the read int, and then the second and this one. Then file read int we can again read in, then because in the second position second byte is basically integer is stored there, we can read again integer. Then file seek file length, it basically position the file pointer at the end of the file. Then write boolean is basically we are writing some boolean value there at the end of the file. So, we can put it at end, and then seek 4 you can know which is the 4th byte stored there. assuming 2 bytes, 4 bytes for integer, 8 bytes for double and everything, you can seek for it, basically go to the byte position and then read boolean there. So, it basically read the boolean from the position there, and finally, you can close the file. Now, here if you a little bit position your file position by means of seek method in a control manner. So, you can position your file pointer anywhere, and from that position you can either read or write whatever you can do, it is there. So, this is a good way that the random access file is useful, that you can randomly write and read data from there, but you have to be little bit careful. If you do the position, then overwrite may takes place, because if you want to write something where some data is already there, you can lose the data because it will overwrite whatever it is there. So, that consideration should be taken into account, so that you can avoid the data overwriting while you are working with the random access file. Now, let us consider another example which basically gives you how we can append data into random access file. Now, appending data is very simple, because you can open the file, both read and write whatever it is there, even the write also. You can position your file pointer at the end of the file, and then you can start writing. So, appending in this way it is possible. So, this is why it can be open as a read mode, write mode, read and write mode, but there is no any mode like append mode which allow you to open a random access file. Now, this is the one example that I can give you for an illustration how a file can be opened and then some data can be append there. Let the name of the file which you want to process, it is called the ct.txt. Assume that this file exists and we want to open it in a read write mode. Now, here this file you see seek the position, file pointer position at the length. Length is basically what is the amount of byte that is available in the file. So, if we position the file at the length with this, that means it basically position the file pointer at the end of the file, and at the end of the file we can call the write byte method as this passing as a string. So, this string if you pass, then it will automatically convert into the byte and then store this byte into the file. So, this basically write byte, this one, and then this basically says that how the file can be appended. You can later on open it and you can see the reading content and everything. So, this example say how the file can be opened using random access file can be used as an appending purpose. Now, this is another very important one topics that you can think about, how we can store object, user defined object, right. So, writing objects into a file and later we can read the same object from the same file. So, this is an example that we can cover it. It can give an idea about how the objects can be stored and how the object can be made persistent rather using random access file mechanism. So, let us consider a program. First of all, we should consider one user defined class for which we want to store the object. Let the user defined class be student. Here we just define the class student, and here you see implement serializable. That is the one concept. Serializable is an interface basically is required in order to read and write to be synchronized. What is the meaning of that? Suppose you store one file with some class definition using one program, right. Now, you change the class definition, say suppose student is a one class for which you have written the data into a file. You want to read the data from the same file, but for other object, assuming that this is the person object which is different from the student, then it basically clash, and then your reading writing program will not be synchronized in that sense, and therefore, this will lead to an error. So, Java whenever it is declared a class as serializability, or it is checked that whether you can have the serializability access, that means the two files are same or not. If it is not there, two classes are same or not. If it is not, then it will not allow you to write into the same object like this one. So, that kind serializable is there. Anyway, So, regarding the serializable, there is a huge story, huge discussion is required actually. Anyway, this serializable, to make that your version of the class that you are using, they are matching actually. It is not that okay, older version you are using, older version means older definition. Older definition means that in earlier version you have certain fields, new version you add more fields or you have deleted some field. That is why the two different definitions actually, that is not allowed. So, it should be consistent, that means same definition should be used, so that object can be of same type, that is what important concept it is there. Now, here it is basically, let us define the class first. Class student is defined here. Now, here again for this serialization, this is the one field that needs to be defined, it is called the serial version UID. Actually, whenever you run this program and you store this, it automatically the Java virtual machine create an ID for that. Okay. So, you can initialize this ID with any data, but it will be automatically initialized by the Java virtual machine for the understanding, and whenever you read or write, it basically check that whether two versions same or not. That is why for this purpose this field is there, but it is not the field for your actual student object in that sense. Now, student class has the following fields: the first name, last name as a string, integer as age, and then is a integer as a marks. So, these are the marks obtained by the student in 5 different subjects will be stored. So, this basically the record of a student data that we want to store and we want to read it. And this is a constructor that basically to initialize the data, initialize the student object, and few setting method, set first name, that means initialization. This set method, get method you can ignore also, these are setter and getter method. I have just given for an illustration, you can ignore it also. So, this is basically the first few points about the class student. There are few more points, few setter methods are there again. There are few more setter methods as I have mentioned here. These are the setter and get methods actually. So, different fields can be updated and everything. You can ignore if you want actually. This is not necessary. This is not mandatory. For the sake of illustration, I have given here. They are not so much important in the context of current discussion. Anyway, so this is basically the definition of class. Now, what you want to do is we want to create some objects of this class and store into a file, that means writing objects, and then later on we want to read the objects from the file. You can create number of objects to be stored there, but in this example I will consider only one object. Later on you can extend this program to use the multiple objects, how it can be stored. Now, here is the program that is okay. This is again continuation of the class declaration. So, this basically here you can see this is another setter method, getter method, and this basically to convert the string, so that we can print hold the object into this what is called the format actually. So, this method is basically converting the different field values into the string, so that we can nicely display the student object. Anyway, so this completes the declaration of the class student, which we can consider for storing and retrieving the data related to this object. Now, here is the program we are considering about write object demo. First we will write an object into a file, and then we will write another method or another program which basically read object demo. So, let us first write the class, write an object. This is the program that we are considering. Now, let us look at the program first, right. So, this is the program, the name of the program is write object demonstration. Here we consider name of the file where the data will be stored. So, d:\java that object is the name of the file where we want to store the data. You can give the name of your own understanding, maybe simple name of the file, so that it can be in the current directory. So, this is the name of the file, and okay, we start the main method. Then write object, we are defining another what is called the write object. We are defining one class actually, So write object IO, this is the name of the object, is the object IO is the class. So we will discuss the write object to file method for this purpose here. Now, so write object is basically the object that we want to write into the file actually. Write object method, it is already declared in the serializable interface that we can use it for there. Now, int m is a marks obtained by the student, and here the student object, one student object is created passing, this is the first name, last name, integer age and the marks obtained in 5 different subjects. Now, for this object IO, we call this write object to file, the method of which we have to just define it later on and passing the argument as a student. So, this is basically it will complete the object IO that we have created, writing into that file into there. Okay, so this is basically the object. Okay, fine. Now, let us come to the write object to file. This is the object that we want to store. So, it is a serializable object, it is basically the student is basically the type of object. Here the object argument is given, that means it can take any object actually as an argument. Anyway, so first we have to create the file as an output stream, a file out, here is a file path. Now, object out is basically the object that we want to create into it. So, object output stream. Now, here object output stream is the new class which is basically we have already mentioned this class there in input byte stream, output byte stream. So, object output stream means if we want to write some object into the output stream, that can be considered. Then object out, this is the object out, then we write object, we can just call the write object method which is defined in object output stream class passing this student object, that means it basically write the object into the file. Then finally, you close the file and this basically completes how we can store an object into a file. Okay, so this is the program that we can think for writing the file. Now, we can consider next part of the program where we can read the object which is already stored in the file like this one. So, this is the next part of the program which we can consider reading the object from the file. So, it is basically the program read object demo, and here is basically read object, we just create object IO, the new read object. So, this is the read object on that object is created, it is from the file, this is the name of the file from where we want to read the object here, and then read object from file, this method we want to define. So, we are defining this method here, this is the main method that we write, and this is the method which we have to discuss here. Now, we create the file input stream because we want to create the object from this file which is stored here, and then we want to create as an object input stream. So, this is the input byte stream class can be considered. This is the name of the object input stream. Basically, it is the wrapper class which basically is a interface from your program to the file, and this interface is basically reading objects or writing objects in the last version. Now, here a student object is declared here, and then read object method, here the read object method is called for this object in, so that it read the object from the input file, and this is casted as a student type. So, the student object can be stored there. So, this basically read the object which is basically of type student, and then object reading is there. Then that reading object you can print, so that you can see that system.out.println student, if you write it, then for example, here system.out.println that object, it basically print the object that you could retrieve from the program. Anyway, so this program explain you how the reading and writing can be done from a file. So, this is basically reading object and writing object, and here we have consider only simple file, sequential access file. You can repeat the same program, but for the writing the object into the random access file also. So, this is left as an exercise for you, so that you can study it but better. Now, so this is regarding the file handling. We have learned many topics in this module regarding input output stream and then character stream, finally the file as an IO and then random access file. So if you want to learn few more, then definitely Oracle tutorial documentation is good for you. This complete reference covers many more other things also that you can, and all the program discussion that we have made here and many more things also related to this random access file, you can give the first link that I have given. Okay, with these things I would like to stop it here today. Thank you very much. We will study next module regarding the next topics in the next video. Thank you very much.